So we are going to be discussing the proposal for B Teams, which came out very recently. Obviously, just to add context, I suppose, to what it is. So it was announced recently that the plans have been put forward to restructure the lower tiers of the English women's pyramid from the 2026-2027 season. If proposals go ahead, it means the WSL and Championship sides will be allowed to enter their B teams anywhere between the 4th and 6th tiers. So just to add some further context, no B team can achieve promotion higher than Tier 3, and all teams must play in a league at least 2 tiers below their first team. I think it's an interesting proposal. It'll be interesting to see what they call their B teams. Like, will it be like Arsenal B or Chelsea B? But what it sounds like is essentially like you'll end up with kind of what the academies already have. Like, you'll just have the academies as the B teams, but then they'll start obviously winning and kind of dominating some of the lower league tiers, and it doesn't feel like it necessarily aids itself to creating competition at the lower ends for me. I think what you end up seeing is that Arsenal's B team will be beating teams in Tier 4. And then what does that create? Just like an Arsenal that win at multiple levels of the pyramid. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so much investment in those academies and those younger players already that putting them against people who are still very much in full-time jobs, have other commitments, don't have the resources, might not even be being paid at all. It still doesn't sit right with me entirely. But Rach, what do you think?
Well, firstly, is this, a lot of managers who are positive about it have talked about the academy, their under 21s, and the opportunity this would provide them. Is this initiative only for under 21 players, like as an alternative, or could a team like Chelsea, who maybe have 30 plus players on their book, put them into a B team? Couldn't figure out what the answer to that was, essentially. And I may be missing something too, but why can't these younger players just go on loan? Like, it's the perfect opportunity for players to get much needed minutes and experience. Isn't that kind of the purpose of the loan system? It's like, and
also help other clubs in the pyramid.
Hello? And like it's kind of been put forward as this, like, there's this big problem where young players aren't getting senior opportunities and there's no other alternative. Like, there is. Go on loan. That's what so many clubs are using the loan system for. I also, like, it kind of feels like we're looking at an opportunity for these young players, and then it's okay to just step on other people's opportunities in order for them to get them. Like, I don't feel comfortable with. I appreciate we want to grow the game and provide opportunities for them, but it doesn't mean you get to take away someone else's opportunity to play in a club that they already play for, that already exists in a tier, just so that you can give someone else the chance to get more senior. Do you know what I mean? It just feels a bit uncomfortable. There's existing clubs there for a reason. And the chairman of Rugby Borough, Lewis Taylor, kind of spoke a bit on it. He wasn't the biggest fan of this idea, but one of the things he spoke about was credibility. Like, and I agree with that. Do fans want to come and see their team play against a B team, or like a Man City B team? If a tier 4 ends up with Man City B team in first, Chelsea B team in second, Arsenal B team in third, and they can't get promoted, you've got 4th and 5th place battling for promote. Like, it just kind of loses that credibility. I think there's a system in place that can help us address the issue, the bottleneck, in terms of providing opportunities for younger players. It just doesn't mean you create something else to then take another club's spot. That's what makes me feel really uncomfortable.
What I don't understand, because I think I used to play in the Arsenal Academy setup, and that was when I was, weirdly enough, Chloe Kelly was in the team at the time. She was 16. I was way too old for it, but you could have an older player in it. So I think I scraped in as the older player. Like, it was like mature old egg. I think I was about 24 at the time. And they had a WSL Academy kind of league. So you'd have your youngsters, I think up to the age of about 21, bar me, playing in this league and competing against each other, which I think is 100% a fair thing to do. What I don't understand, like you said, is kind of creating this like almost uncompetitive thing where we just see the same names reaching those top spots and kind of not creating any of those really lovely moments where you start to see teams, who have been trying to build investment, who have been trying to sort of get bums on seats, who have been really growing and trying to get in new players, kind of work their way up the system. If anything, it just keeps them lower down, and it doesn't create movement, and it gets a bit samey and a bit stale. But like you said, there have been a lot of managers who have really backed this new proposal. Liverpool's assistant manager Scott Rogers has said, from a player point of view, for them to be playing senior football earlier, this is younger players, and getting more minutes earlier, I think that would be a positive. Sometimes under 21s football is very nice, and it's not actually the reality of when they hit first team, so they get a bit of a shock. So I think it could be a good way to bridge the gap. But as you said, Rach, I think things like that can be definitely fulfilled by just going out on loan and kind of getting that experience, which generally speaking is what the WSL clubs have been doing and using the Championship for, or the National League for. It's to kind of give those youngster players a bit of like heart and grit, and like see how it was, you know, back in the day, kind of struggling to, you know, get your place on the pitch, or play on pitches that aren't particularly great, or play with, you know, older experienced players, which is great. But I don't, there's a lot of conversations also around like the WPLL happening with, like, I know the Scottish teams coming in, or whether we should have a closed league system, or whether there should be a salary cap. I feel like this WPLL this year have kind of, there's a lot of conversations in them trying to figure out what it is that they want to do with the structure of women's football. So even though we're having this debate, I don't necessarily think this is like 100% going to go ahead. I think it's just that there's a lot of conversations that they're having, trying to figure out what is the best model that works for women's football, just to caveat that.
I agree. And I was going to say, like, I know this has moved ahead a little bit more in terms of, you know, going out to clubs and getting their input. And I really hope it's going to clubs all the way down for input, and not just clubs that would have the opportunity to create B teams. But I agree. I do think you can't rule something out until you've talked about it and debated it and looked at all angles of it. And I feel like every time they discuss something that's slightly outside of the football norms, it gets leaked, it becomes a big story, everyone piles in, debates it, says, I can't believe they're doing this, I can't believe they're going to turn our games into Glastonbury, like all this kind of stuff. Like,
oh, I missed that one.
But in order to be like, you know, a closed league isn't going to work for us, you need to get around a table and discuss the pros and cons of a closed league. So those conversations need to happen in order to rule things out. Like you say, it doesn't mean everything's going to happen that's talked about, and it all gets leaked and sensationalized. So yes, it's worth adding that caveat.
I'd also say I think that is the purpose of the leak. I wouldn't be surprised if the WPLL are leaking this stuff themselves purposely, just so that people they can kind of gauge. Yeah, they could, but also they can kind of gauge the fan reaction and what it would be. It's the easiest way to do that. Okay, well
they hate it.
Yeah. Cycle back. Another one of their proposals has been around expanding the number of teams in each regional division of the lower tiers. So moving from 12 to 14 teams in each league in tiers 3 and 4.
Good.
Which I'm 100% back. I don't think there's I don't really see any negatives to that. I think increasing the amount of teams in the leagues creates competitiveness, gives more teams the opportunity to rise up through the leagues, and I don't really see that being a problem, if I'm honest.
No, I think there's a positive from that. I think there is a backlog. I appreciate there's not endless teams for players to join, and we often have the issue of where are those teams based in terms of where people can go and play, etc. I appreciate that, but expansion is a good idea. Yeah, I like that.